Welcome to Cornerstone Home Inspector Education Center. Tonight we have a webinar on PEX, plumbing systems, what every home inspector should know. If you like to ask a question, Scott will be monitoring the chat box, and or you can break in. If you're not talking, please make sure that your microphone is muted during the webinar. And don't forget that we have our Connecticut Law Seminar on October 10th at Mohegan Sun. It's an all-day seminar where you can earn 8 credits, 3 from the law seminar, and we have 3 from Schluter Systems and 2 from James Hardy. Lunch will be provided, as always.
And breakfast.
So we're going to get started. This is a comprehensive guide for home inspectors on cross-linked polyethylene piping systems. We're going to be covering identification, installation quality, some common issues that you're going to be finding during a home inspection, and reporting on best practices, how we should be reporting on this PEX material. So what is PEX? PEX is cross-linked polyethylene piping. It's flexible, durable, and you will find it in residential plumbing. It was first developed in the 1960s, widely adopted in Europe before gaining popularity in North America in the 1990s. The applications are primarily used for hot and cold water distribution in residential properties. It's also used in radiant floor heating systems. When we say PEX is cross-linked, it refers to a chemical process that changes the structure of the plastic at the molecular level. Why is this important for PEX? Cross-linking gives PEX piping its key advantages. Flexibility, it can bend and curve without breaking. Thermal resistance, it holds up well to hot and cold water temperatures. Durability, it's more resistant to cracking, freezing, and chemical corrosion than other non-cross-linked polyethylene. Memory, it returns to its original shape after expanding. So you may have a freeze situation, that pipe will expand, but when you have your thaw, that pipe will go back to its original shape and size. When inspecting PEX piping in a home inspector should assess the following key aspects to ensure proper installation condition and safety. General installation. You're going to be able to look for your proper support and fastening. PEX should be adequately supported and approved fasteners to prevent sagging. Secure bends. Bends should be use approved fittings for proper bend radius to avoid kinking. Again, no kinks or sharp bends. Check for any visible damage that could restrict flow or compromise the pipe. Connections and fittings. You need to look for approved fittings. Secure joints. You're going to ensure that joints are tight and leak-free. Check for signs of corrosion on metal fittings. Transition points. Verify that transition to other piping types, such as copper or CPVC, use compatible fittings. On that, you will see PEX connected to a lot of different piping. Copper, plastic piping, PVC piping. We're not all experts on the fittings, and this webinar is not meant to make you an expert. What you need to do in your reports is put in there that what I do in my reports is I put in there that PEX is connected to copper or to other piping material that might not hold up over the course of its life expectancy. Condition and age, discoloration or degradation. Check for signs of UV damage, especially in areas of sunlight exposure or pipe degradation. Manufacturer labels, look for clear labeling to confirm it's PEX A, PEX B, PEX C. This can affect performance characteristics. Product recalls. Beware of any recall brands or fittings. Zurn fittings were recalled in the past, and we'll get into this later in the webinar. Fire safety and protection. Penetration fire stops. Where PEX penetrates fire rated assemblies, floors, and walls, confirm proper fire stop systems are in place. Protective sleeves, where PEX passes through framing, it should have sleeves or grommets to prevent abrasion and damage. Temperature and location, hot water line insulation. PEX hot water lines should ideally be insulated for energy efficiency. Freezing risk, check for uninsulated lines in attics, crawl spaces, or exterior walls prone to freezing. UV exposure, PEX should not be installed in location with prolonged sunlight exposure unless UV resistance. Code compliance and best practices. Accessible shutoffs. Each fixture should have a shutoff valve, especially toilets and sinks. Pressure testing. While not always visible during an inspection, ask if the system was pressure tested after installation. Proper color coding. Red for hot, blue for cold, white clear for general use. Um, Although color coding is not required by code, it helps identify issues faster. So some of these things that we're going to be going over in the webinar aren't exactly sort of home inspection related. This is sort of a general overview of PEX. Obviously, we're not going to be asking if anybody was pressure testing the system, but I did put this into the webinar. And here we have some pictures. What causes kinks? Well, obviously, bending a pipe too sharply, improper handling during installation, and forcing the pipe around tight corners. Um, why this matters is it reduces water flow, it creates weak points, and it may eventually lead to leaking. And they can't, once it's kinked, it cannot be fully repaired. And you can see a sample right here, and you can see nice outlines here of proper installation. Look for sharp bends, check resisted spaces, and pay attention to corners and fixture connections. You want to document the location of the kinks, note potential flow restrictions, and recommend evaluation when severe. Okay, PEX A. So the types of PEX, we have PEX A. It's the most flexible type, created using peroxide method, offers highest burst resistance and freeze tolerance. Common in high-end installations and radiant heat, it can be repaired with expansion fittings. PEX B, stronger overall, created using saline method, has higher chlorine resistance than other types, and we'll get into that later into the webinar. Most commonly installed in residential homes, slightly stiffer than PEX A, but more economical. PEX C, least expensive option, created using electron beam method, tends to be more brittle. Most susceptible to kinking, may become brittle over time, often found in budget installations. Let's see what we got now. We've covered some of this. The advantage of the PEX, its flexibility. It bends easy around corners, requires fewer fittings, and can snake through walls and floors with minimal cuts. Resistance, resists scale buildup and chlorine degradation. Won't corrode like metal pipes. Minimizes noise from water hammering. Again, we have the freeze tolerance, can expand without bursting when frozen, recover size after thawing, offers protection in cold climates, and it's cost effective. Material costs less than copper, installation is faster and easier, and requires fewer specialized skills and tools. You can see here some of the bridging that they use and some of the protection. If you're watching this as a recorded event, your viewing code is PEX 2025. Disadvantages of PEX. UV sensitivity. It degrades with sun exposure, becomes brittle within 30 to 60 days of UV contact. Rodent vulnerability. Attractive to rodents. It can be chewed through, causing leaks. Early system failures. Some brands have class action lawsuits. Fitting failures can cause catastrophic damage. Code conflicts, not universally accepted. Some jurisdictions restrict usage. Requirements vary widely. You want to we're not code inspectors, so that's something that you would probably not report on. So we have the UV degradation issues. And once it's damaged, the pipe must be replaced. Again, the damage can occur within 30 to 60 days. You want to look for discoloration and brittleness. Check attics, crawl spaces, and exterior walls, common places for accidental exposure. Report on all exposed PEX as defective, not even if it's brittle. So if it's hitting in the sun, you're going to want to call it out. There's some signs of rodent damage. They may chew through the pipes, simply grinding their teeth on it. And you can see some of the damage here caused by the leaking. PEX color coding. PEX red, it's traditionally used for hot water applications, temperature rated up to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. PEX blue typically indicates cold water lines. Some material as red PEX, just different. Oh, it's the same material as red PEX, just a different color. And the white PEX is a universal application, can be used with both hot or cold, often used with color coded brands. Color is for identification only. All PEX pipes have identical temperature and pressure ratings, regardless of color. Installation tools. So I put this in here just so you can sort of see, and we'll just go over it briefly. We have special scissors or wheel cutters are essential for making clean square cuts which prevent leaks. Crimping tools. You have powered versions. Again, these tools must match the ring size. Expansion tools. So you put your tool in there, it expands the pipe out so that you can get your fittings in there, and that pipe will shrink back down to its size. And a go, no go gauge. This is essential quality tool, verifies proper compression. Manifold systems. What is a manifold? Central distribution point for water, similar to an electrical panel for plumbing, routes water to individual fixtures. So everything will be labeled. Some will go to the kitchen, some will go to the bathrooms. Um, Dedicated lines from manifold to each fixture eliminates hidden connections, allows individual fixtures shut off. And we're going to have a picture, I think, coming up of that. The main line with branches to fixtures uses fewer materials, more similar traditional plumbing layout. Remote manifolds. Secondary manifolds in bathrooms or kitchen reduce total piping need, and it simplifies complex installation. And here we have a good sample of a manifold here. And you can see here's all your shutoffs. Everything's nice and neat. You have your supply lines. And again, you're cold and you're hot. The manifold must be accessible for service. Check for proper access. Labeling, everything needs to be labeled properly. We have another picture coming up for that. You want to check all the connections for leakage. Look for water stains or corrosion. Valve operation, test individual valve operations if accessible. Note stucking or leaking valves. I personally do not run any valves in a home because it's just not in our state standard in Connecticut, and it's not something that we do. And here we have labeled PEX manifold. So you can see here that they're properly labeled so you know what you're shutting off. Identifying PEX versus other piping. PEX is flexible, usually red or blue or white, and it's printing along the pipe. It'll read what it is. It'll say what it is. Visible crimp and clamp rings. CPVC, it's a rigid plastic pipe, cream or light yellow color, solvent welded joints, and it cannot bend. Okay. Copper, we know what that is, rigid metal pipe, distinctive copper color, solder joints, or now they have their press joints, um, and a green patina is common. Polybutylene, flexible gray pipe plastic, Known failure issues. Common installation was from 78 to 95. PB marking on the pipe. My call out, I don't know about you guys. Maybe Scott could jump in here for a second. I always call out the CPVC and the gray piping. Okay. Um, because of the failures, because of connections, because having the CPVC go to copper or to PEX or vice versa. If I see copper or PEX on its own, it's fine. But if I do see these two others, I do call it out. How about you, Scott?
The polybutylene, yes, it's been known to have failed. The CPVC, not so. I don't really call that out. And there's a lot of homes, in my opinion and from my experience, a lot of homes that do even, that will, if the connection is right, not brass to copper or dissimilar metals, but if you can make a connection from PEX to copper. The only thing is some of the shark bites. I'm not a big fan of shark bites. They say they're okay, but what I don't like to see is bathrooms where they put shark bites behind the wall. A lot of these fittings, I'm not a big. I just did my house. I did it all in copper. I'm not a big fan of PEX, but sometimes a lot of plumbers will tell you it's one connection all the way up, and if they have to pull it through, and the connection's at the sink and down in the basement. So there is some pros and cons to it, but polybutylene, absolutely, Jim. The CPVC, I see every once in a while. I'll see houses new and not really old that have that. If it's done right, it shouldn't have a problem. It's not like the polybutylene that has had failure issues and cracking and all that.
How about, it always concerns me about the connections going from CPVC to copper. If they're not done correctly, it's just just something I point out. And there doesn't have to be any leaking or anything. I just want the client to know that that can happen.
If it's just CPVC alone in a lot of houses, you shouldn't have a problem. But if it's not, if it's someone who's messing around and added copper and that connection isn't right, it could leak. You're right.
Pipe markings and what they mean. So here we have the PEX type, usually marked as PEX A, B, or C. We have the different sizes. The standard dimension ratio, the wall thickness relative to the pipe diameter, pressure and temperature rating, maximum PSI, NSFPW indicates potable water approval, ASTM standards, and the manufacturing date. So this stuff may be on it. I honestly, when I'm inspecting, I very rarely look to see any of this stuff. But some of the things do point out, like on the CPVC, if I see FlowGuard Gold, I know that they've had some problems, but we do have some information on the Cornerstone website about that. FlowGuard says that it's fine. There's been some lawsuits. They say it's not because of their product. But I do, again, if it's CPVC or the gray piping, I do point that out. Proper PEX support. So horizontal PEX pipes need to be supported every 32 inches. This prevents sagging and stress. PEX expands 1 inch per 100 feet. So you need to allow for a 1/4 inch gap at each support. Minimum bend radius is 6 to 8 times pipe diameter. Sharper bends risk kinking. And PEX should transition to metal 18 inches from water heaters. I'm seeing this more and more. I don't think it's so much a big deal on electric water heaters, but I still call it out. But I've seen it on gas and oil fired, where PEX is just connected directly to the water heater, and I call that all the time. A lot of that has to do with your older homes, the multifamily homes I go into. You'll see the ceiling heights are very low, and the plumber just does not have the room, so they'll just put in the PEX there with some bends. So 18 inches, got to have copper to the water heater. Improper fittings. You want to check your fitting types. You want to, you can't mix systems. If it's a crimp, you got to use a crimp. If it's a clamp, you got to use a clamp. You can't mix them. Um, Verify proper installation. Look for incomplete crimps, loose clamps, or gaps. Note metallic compatibility. Brass fittings may cause dezincification in certain water conditions. You got that word out pretty well. Um, Check for proper fastening. Connection should be secure with no movement. Improper fittings are the most common failure point in PEX systems. Careful inspection of connections can prevent costly water damage. I see this all the time in multifamilies where they go into the basement and they rip out all the plumbing, and the plumber comes in for the PEX, and it can just be a mess. It's just everywhere. With PEX, I see a lot more unsupported pipes than I do copper or other types. So it's something that you really want to point out in your reports. Okay, we covered this a little bit, but proper PEX insulation near water heaters. So why this is we have heat transfer risk. Uh, PEX degrades with excessive heat. Water heaters create temperature concerns. Okay, that's why these flues get hot. And if you have PEX here, they're just going to melt. Um, Code requires 18 inches of metal pipe from a tank. Some manufacturers specify 24 inches. Proper transition. Use copper or CPVC before transitioning the PEX. Special fittings required. Thermal protection. Heat wraps or mixing valves provide additional safety. They prevent temperature spikes. I actually did a home inspection a couple of months ago and was in the basement looking at the heating system. And the heating system was the domestic hot water supply. And they had the PEX connected directly to that. And that thing was firing. I had it going on for about a half hour. And I put my hand on that PEX and it was just hot. And that's just a no go. So we call that out. The heating company had to come back out. It was a new installation and they had to put copper because that was just not going to cut it. PEX and exterior walls. Again, we have a freeze risk. PEX and exterior walls may freeze in cold climates. Even though flexible, repeated freezing shortens the lifespan. Many jurisdictions prohibit supply plumbing in exterior walls. Um, Insulation requirements. Always verify pipe is on the warm side of insulation. Minimum R4 pipe insulation recommended. Leak concerns. Well, if a pipe leaks in the wall, water damage inside the wall often goes undetected and can cause significant damage. Ceilings and floor penetrations. Identify penetration points. Check where pipes pass through the floors, ceilings, and fire rated walls. These are critical inspection points. Verify proper protection. PEX requires protective protection sleeves when passing through wood or metal. Prevents abrasion and damage. You can see the suspension clips here going through the joist. Um, Check fire blocking. Fire rated penetrations need to be properly sealed. Let's see here. Report deficiency. Unsealed penetrations compromise fire safety. They also allow pest entry and air movement between the floors. Intumescent materials or fire stop collars may be required by code. So again, if it's going through a wall and it's a fire issue, we've got to check for that sealing. Expansion and contradiction. PEX expands and contracts significantly with temperature changes. Expansion loops or offsets must be provided every 20 to 30 feet on long straight runs. Inadequate allowance for movement can cause fittings to fail over time. So if you're going to run at 30 feet, we need to put a loop in there so that that expansion and contraction happens. High-tech plumbing identification. It's a brand of PEX with brass fittings sold between 95 and 2007, and it's subject to a major class action settlement. Known for premature failure and dezincification of brass fittings can cause catastrophic leaks. The identification is a bright orange hot or blue cold color. So that's what it looks like here. Was able to get a picture. Brass fittings with high-tech stamping, installation dates between 95 and 2007. I would report on it and recommend complete system evaluation by a licensed plumber. Okay. Zernpex issues. Class action year 2008. There was a settlement of $20 million. Um, Peak problem years 2006. Typical year to failure 7 to 10 years. So we want to look out for that material. And we put some information here. You can come back and take a look at. Actually, what I'll put this on the links of interest on our website. I'll do that tomorrow for you guys if you want to look this up. Chemical compatibility concerns. So with PEX. So what we have here is our chlorine. It's limited. High levels accelerate degradation. Petroleum products, it's incompatible. Pesticides, incompatible. Uh, Phthalates varies by manufacturer. Acidic water, it's good for that. Hard water, it's excellent. And again, the UV light, very poor, and it degrades rapidly. PEX and recirculation systems. Uh, Continuous heat exposure. Recirculation keeps water hot consistently. This accelerates PEX aging and degradation. Time controls. Intermittent operation extends PEX life. Check for the presence of timers on recirculation systems. Manufacturer specifications. Some PEX brands prohibit recirculation entirely. You want to check with the manufacturer. Temperature limitations. The maximum recirculation temperature for PEX is 140 degrees. Higher temperatures void warranties. Insurance considerations. Some insurance excludes certain PEX brands. Other charge higher premiums. Known problem systems may be uninsurable. Disclosure requirements. Inspectors should know system type. Tell clients to inform insurance companies. Failure to disclose may void coverage. I don't think that's going to happen. Claim denials. Improper installation may void coverage. DIY PEX installation face higher scrutiny. Document professional installation when found. Replacement recommendations. High risk systems may warrant replacement. This is a disclosure item, not just a repair recommendation. So if you're running into any of these brands that have problems or class action suits, it's something that you're gonna want to put in your report. PEX and local building codes. So the code variations, PEX is accepted. PEX acceptance varies widely between jurisdictions. California only approved PEX in 2009. Some of the cities in California still restrict usage. Local amendments often add requirements beyond the national code. So, we're not going to do this because we're not code inspectors, but you can check with the local departments. Again, common code requirements, 18 inches from the water heater, protect from physical damage, specified support intervals. You must follow the manufacturer's installation instructions and specific fitting requirements. Fire rated penetration details as we gone over. We're not going to go over this code here because we're not code inspectors. If you're viewing this as a pre-recorded event, this code is RED 8462. Testing PEX during an inspection. So are we going to pressure test? Nope. It's not typically part of a home inspection. I know I don't do it. I know some inspectors who are thermal imaging now, and it can reveal leaks and improper installation, especially behind walls and such. Moisture meetings, they're useful near fittings and manifolds, and if you see any staining or anything, or leaking. Visual inspection, focus on accessible portions and connections. So as home inspectors, we can't test concealed plumbing systems. We can only test what we can see. We can only inspect what we can see. So you want to document your limitations very clearly. Okay. One of the things I do in my reports when I find corrosive shutoff, say, I'll put that I noted corrosive shutoffs in the home. I recommend a licensed plumber come out and inspect. Limitation of inspection. We don't attempt to find every single corroded shutoff. And that's important because you'll get the phone call. Hey, my plumber's here. You pointed out the one by the heating system and you found another one by the shutoff. Okay. So good that you had the plumber out there. But we want to try to avert these phone calls and these letters as much as possible. So I know what I do. My limitation is that I just put that we don't attempt to find every single one. Have a plumber come in, check out the plumbing system, look for any additional corrosion or leaks. PEX and slab foundations. So sleeving requirements. PEX through slabs requires protective sleeving. This allows for movement and replacement and prevents damage to the concrete pipe. Fitting restrictions. No fittings allowed under a slab. Continuous runs only. Manifolds must be accessible above slab. So what are the risks? Leaks under the slabs are difficult to detect, and it can undermine foundations and may go unnoticed for extended periods of time. Note limited visibility in reports. Recommend documentation review. Look for manifold setup and transition points. So basically, what you're going to be putting in there is that you noted PEX in a slab and you couldn't inspect it. I think that's important to put in the report. PEX piping size. So basically, here are some of the different sizes. We have 3/8 PEX for individual fixtures. Flow capacity is 2 to 3 gallons a minute, and it's used in some manifold systems. 1/2-inch PEX is most fixtures, 4 to 5 gallons per minute. 3/4 PEX, and those are for main lines, bathtubs, 7 to 8 gallons per minute, and they're required for high flow fixtures. And then we have our 1-inch PEX main supply lines, 10 to 11 gallons per minute. Oversized for most residential use. Sometimes I'll see those coming in as the main line coming in from the town if it's city water on newer construction. Thermal expansion tanks and PEX. So you want to check the expansion tank. They're required with closed systems. Prevents excessive pressure on PEX. Verify size and installation. Tank should match the water heater capacity, must be supported properly, should be installed on cold water line. Test tank pressure. Tap on the tank. It should sound hollow, not filled with water. If accessible, check air pressure with gauge. Document findings. Missing expansion tank can void PEX warranties. No absence as deficiency requiring correction. The expansion tanks are, I've heard you shouldn't install them sideways. Then I've heard you can install them sideways if they're supported properly. If they're installed sideways, my feeling is if they're not supported properly, you're going to break the threads if it fills with water, and you could have a failure that way. So I like my expansion tanks up and down, but they're not always going to be installed that way. I, for a long time, called out this installation is incorrect and got called by a couple of plumbers saying, you don't know what you're talking about, but this is fine. It can do it this way. So I stopped calling it out.
Me personally, I don't put them sideways, Jim, up or down.
You like up or down?
Yeah, I mean, you can listen. They're even on the radon systems, they go up or down. I would never do it that way. I mean, that strapping, that's even that the way they got strapped, that's a little hokey there. I mean, you know, just because you're a plumber, I'm not knocking plumbers, but just because you're a professional in a certain trade doesn't necessarily mean you do everything perfectly. Although it might be acceptable, but you know, those have a tendency.
Right too is on. There's a rubber bladder in there.
if the
And
bladder fails and it fills with water, what do you think is going to happen with that weight? A lot of times you'll see these freestanding, but if that
right,
bladder fails, that thing, I wish,
yeah,
it's very heavy. It's very heavy and it could snap if that bladder fails.
yeah.
Up and down, not a problem. And we always test them, or you go up and you hit it with your finger and you hear ping, it's okay. And other times you hear a thud, but if they're vertically, they're usually this way, or you can do it top or bottom. And when they're like that, that's real heavy. That stuff, is it screwed in there? It's wrapped around a bunch of times. That stuff could fail if the tank fails.
So
But it's not
pressure relief valves. Pressure relief valve is a critical safety component. It prevents dangerous pressure buildup. PEX is not allowed for discharge pipes. Code requires metal piping. And here's another sort of issue that, again, I've been calling out. I like to see the copper, but I've seen more PEX. I've seen more CPVC coming down that expansion type. You know, I just down the pressure relief valve, down the side of a water heater. I see them on the sides of heating systems. I see them at Lowe's now, where you can buy them pre-cut and you just have to screw them in, and it's all plastic. I'm calling it out. I tell my client, though, it's a little picky. The water coming out, it's more of an issue for the CPVC. I think that can melt, and if you get a going long enough, you don't want the end of that pipe sealing up because it's shrinked and sealed.
Jim, the
Yeah,
CPVC can handle the hot water.
correct.
PVC cannot.
okay,
And some jurisdictions allow the plastic, not the PEX, but they have to be strapped to the tank so that when there's a discharge, they're not flapping around. Because
right.
people go downstairs and sit around the discharge, play cards, have donuts. We don't want them to get scalded, but I tell people it's better to have black iron or copper. That's the best way to handle it.
Right. Okay. So we have temperature concerns, and as you can see here, the temperature and pressure relief valve discharge must be copper or CPVC, never PEX. Okay, so we'll put that in there. PEX and water softeners, chemical compatibility. PEX is unaffected by softened water. It won't corrode like metal pipes. It's compatible with normal salt levels. Bypass installation. Check for proper bypass valve. Verify outdoor lines aren't softened. Note excessive salt setting. Maintenance requirements. Softener maintenance affects PEX longevity. Regular cleaning prevents resin fouling. Prevents bacterial growth. Drainage considerations. Discharge lines should not be PEX. Air gaps required at drains. Check for proper termination. You can see here your sediment filter, your softener, and your shutoffs on either side. PEX and electrical grounding. PEX is non-conductive, creating potential hazards in homes that previously used metal water pipes for electrical grounding. Here's what to inspect. So the problem, PEX is non-conductive, breaking the grounding path when replacing metal pipes. Improper grounding creates shock and fire hazards. You want to make sure that there's alternate grounding. Look for grounding rods or other supplemental grounding methods that have been installed during plumbing upgrades. Proper solutions, verify jumping wires across PEX sections and grounding clamps on remaining metal pipes to maintain system integrity. Always recommend electrical inspection when grounding is questionable. This specialized issue typically requires an electrician's evaluation, especially in older homes where plumbing has been upgraded with PEX. I can tell you for grounding in my reports, I know where it is as best as I can see it on the main water shutoff. Outside, I know I put a disclaimer in there that says that at the time your house was built, the grounding may have been sufficient, but today's standards have increased. You should consider consultation with a licensed electrician to bring your grounding up to current standards. So that covers me. They come out and they go, I don't see two grounding rods in the ground 8 feet apart. And I told you to call an electrician. Concealed plumbing limitation. Again, we talked about in-wall limitation. Most PEX is concealed inside walls and ceilings. Only a small percentage may be visible during the inspection. Note water stains, pressure issues, or temperature fluctuations. This may indicate concealed problems. Documentation review. Ask for installation records and permits if possible. Previous repair history can indicate ongoing issues. Clear reporting, include specific disclaimers about concealed plumbing. So you want to set the appropriate client expectation. It's interesting. I did an inspection many, many years ago, and I was training somebody, and that person got another job, went back to that house delivering an appliance, and they recognized him, and they said, "Boy, were we mad at you and Jim." And they said, "What happened?" They said, like a year after they move in, they had a pipe burst in the ceiling in the living room. And immediately they wanted to blame us, but the plumber came out and said, "There's no way for an inspector to see that in a ceiling." And it was fine the day of the inspection. So those disclaimers about what you can't see are very important. I know it's very frustrating because when I started in this business, my report writing was more on the observation. Now it's almost with the limitation of inspection, almost as much as the observation. So be cautious on what you're reporting on. PEX and fire rated assemblies. Fire stop collars need to be installed. Fire caulk, specialized sealant for smaller penetrations, and floor penetration. Critical areas between living spaces require proper fire rated assemblies, common area of code violations. Water quality effects on PEX. Water quality significantly affects PEX longevity. High chlorine levels can reduce lifespans up to 60%. Municipal water treatment changes can impact existing installations. So recommend water testing when inspecting older PEX systems. PEX in older home retrofits. Transition points. PEX connections between existing pipes. Look for galvanic isolation at copper joints. System design. Note if retrofit follows the original layout. Verify adequate pipe sizing for modern fixtures. Accessibility issues. Retrofit often sacrifice ideal support. No creative routing through constrained spaces. Permit status, verified permits for major retrofits. I don't do that. But there are many. I know Connecticut has a new website where all the towns are signing up and have. I think it's a law now that everything's going online. So you'll be able to go onto that site, type in. You'll see the town. You type in the address. It can now start showing you what permits are pulled. So that might be something that you want to do. I do it every once in a while to see what's going on with the house if I have time. I don't like to rely on it though.
You know what, Jim? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
To add to your point about, I always tell people, and we find a lot of stuff. I could do it, but it's easier. I just tell them to call the building department or the sanitarian, and they get a lot of information, a lot of open. People pull permits, don't close them, or they're like 10, 15 years later. After 9 years, I believe, the permit. They can open a permit, but if they don't close it or have a final inspection, it goes away roughly about 9 years. It's from my buddy told me with the building department. So you get a lot of information on some things, or we end up telling them to check anyways when you do the inspection. I don't know how anybody else does, but I always do, and we find out a lot of stuff.
So do I.
Buried oil tanks, fire marshal's office, building department. So it becomes helpful. I kind of just tell them that anyways, or put it in my report if I suspect something, or maybe it's there or not there.
So our age and lifespan considerations. Expected lifespan of PEX is 40 to 50 years. Manufacturer warranties typically 25 years. But properly installed systems should last 40 plus years. Early failures, you're going to see that within 7 to 15 years. Lifespan factors are the water quality, water chemistry, again, the UV exposure, and fitting types. Age documentation, no installation date when known. So sometimes it's printed on there, and if you can find it, it's something that you might want to put into your reports. Evaluating DIY PEX installations. So, yeah, so, I've done a couple of inspections where I go into the basement and it is like a Los Angeles freeway. Its pipe is just going everywhere. And this is just exactly like when you open up an electrical panel, you want to see everything nice and neat. Those branch circuits with a nice little curve on it, nice bend, everything's nice and neat, well supported. Same thing with PEX. You want to make sure that it's nice and neat, well supported. And again, we've talked tonight about kinking and sharp corners and all that kind of stuff, and being supported and expansion loops. But you basically can go into a house and tell when a plumber didn't do it. And that needs to be pointed out. Seasonal inspection considerations. So in the winter, we're going to look for vulnerable areas. Summer settings, summer considerations, and higher water temperature, stress fittings. You want to check expansion loops and attics, verify cooling, recirculation systems, fall preparation, no inadequate insulation before winter, recommend preventive measures. And then in the spring, look for winter damage evidence, check for expansion or movement issues. No any repairs made after freezes. PEX versus copper. So the cost, lower, the PEX advantage is that it's lower material and labor cost. Installation, faster, fewer joints needed. Freeze resistant, can expand without bursting. Water quality, there's no metallic taste. Sound dampening, it's quieter with less hammering. The copper advantage is, again, you can read here, no leaching concerns. It's unaffected by sunlight, not attracted to pests, and it's a longer history of reliability. Reading PEX installation instructions. That's something I just threw in here just so that you can go over it a little bit, but it's not something that we're going to be doing. The connection methods, manufacturers specify exact procedures. Different brands have unique requirements, support requirements that we talk to, spacing, hardware types, and then system limitations, restrictions on applications, temperature, and chemicals. So many installations violate these limitations unknowingly. So you want to do your best to look to see how things are installed. Again, with the close to the water heater, heating systems, the fire blocking, that sort of thing. PEX in commercial applications, code verification. Commercial applications face stricter requirements. Many jurisdictions limit PEX in commercial buildings. Fire rating requirements. Commercial spaces need specific testing. Plenum spaces have special rules. Penetration require commercial grade fire stopping. Pressure considerations, higher pressure needed for tall buildings. Pressure reduction valves must be inspected. System pressure tests are mandatory. Installation standards, commercial installers need specific certification. Documentation requirements are more extensive. Regular testing may be required. So we don't do a lot of commercial. I try to keep it under 15,000 square feet. But if I see PEX now, I'm going to probably call a plumber to come in to make sure everything is up to code and proper. Sample inspection report language. Properly installed system. Home is plumbed with PEX water supply lines. Visible portions appear properly installed with appropriate supports and connections. No leaks observed at accessible areas. UV damage. PEX plumbing and attic shows UV denigration from sun exposure. Affected sections are brittle and discolored. Recommend licensed plumber replace damaged sections. Support issues. PEX piping and crawl spaces lacks adequate support. Current spacing exceeds manufacturer recommendations. Additional hangers needed every 32 inches. Problematic brand. Home appears to have a specific type of PEX that's may have an issue. This brand has document failure and class action settlement. Full system evaluation recommended. Understanding manufacturer's certifications. So NSF 61 is drinking water safety, certified material for potable water, test for chemical leaching, required for water supply. ASTM F876, PEX pipe standard, core manufacturing standard, defines physical properties, establishes testing methods. Again, we're going to the ASTM F877, and it's a PEX system standard, covers complete PEX systems, including pipes and fittings, addresses connection methods. And then we have our UL 1821, that's a fire safety rating, important for commercial applications, tests flame and smoke characteristics required by many jurisdictions. So professional referrals, when to recommend professional evaluation. So we want clear guidance for homeowners. Evidence of past leaks or repairs may indicate ongoing problems, known problematic systems, code violations, improper installation, system nearing end of expected life. So we're going to put all this stuff, and that's when we're going to go for a referral. So we have some additional learning resources. I'm going to put these up on the website also. The International Plumbing Commentary, Manufacturer Installation Guidelines, certification options, specialized plumbing inspection courses, plumbers manufacturer certification programs, advanced home inspection endorsements. There's online resources here, the plumbingperspective.com, PEX guides, inspectionnews.com, and then professional networks, local inspector associations, online inspection communities, and sort of us. But I'll put this plumbingperspective.com on PEX guidelines up on our website. So I think we're getting there. This is the last page. So what are our key takeaways? So identification is critical. We want to know the different types of PEX and the problem brands, what to document, how to document it, the limitations of the documentation. You want to focus on visible clues, check supports, protection fittings, and connections. Again, the UV damage is something that we want to spend extra time on. And then clear reporting, use specific language about observations, and then you want to be very, very clear, and then make actionable recommendations when needed. When I first started writing reports, I would say, recommend a plumber come out and evaluate the system. And that was wrong. You want to make sure that it's a licensed plumber to come out and evaluate the system and make recommendations at that time. So that, I know it sounds weird, but you could have a plumber go up there, they'll evaluate the system, and then they don't call the client to see what's going on. So, and then they look at the report and they're like, well, you know, I said to have them come out and look, but I didn't tell them to call you. So you want to be really cross your T's and dot your I's. So how I write it is, I noted leaking on a pipe. I recommend a licensed plumber come out, evaluate the pipe, and at that time, make recommendations. So clear reporting, and then you want to stay current on PEX technology. Always want to do your research. We can help. We're going to put up some links on our website about PEX and the different problems and the different manufacturers who have had issues. So that'll be a resource there for you. I think we already have something on plumbing on that up there, but I will put some more information up for you. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, Jim, let me just say a few words because we're just slightly early. So one thing I learned a long time ago, we put a lot of stuff in here that history and stuff like that that may not really relate to what we're doing or looking for or what we're supposed to know. But one thing I learned when I first got into some of the Facebook groups to research what was going on across the country, most of us in this area, this region, are working directly with the buyers. I know 99.9% of the time I have a buyer at my side. I don't mind that, but in other parts of the country, they don't come to the inspection at all, or they don't come till the end. So Scott and I and Jim, we like redundancy in our reports and disclaiming things and talking about the limitations and exclusions. And even if you have that in writing, it doesn't hurt to articulate that during the inspection as well, because you can show them why you can't see something or evaluate it properly. You're going to take a picture of it too, but it just stays in their mind better. And I have found over the years, because I've been involved in an organization early on in ASHI, meeting with people here in Connecticut, and then with CAHI for 20 some odd years or more, that most of the people that got in trouble, it was more for not reporting on restrictions and limitations than for stuff they didn't find. And some of it you can get out of on your own, and some of it can go to an attorney. So, you know, establishing a relationship with those clients, knowing a little bit more than what you need to have to talk about, makes you look better and smarter. And then just telling them right then and there that I can't really evaluate this oil tank because it's behind the wall and it's blocked in or whatever it is, I think is huge, because besides finding things for them to so they know about their house, we need to protect ourselves from the liability. We put our ass out for every component there. If you bring an electrician and he's only liable, or she, for their work, we're taking on everything. So we have to have the proper way to protect ourselves. So it doesn't hurt. I do it myself to go through my report, process my agreement every once in a while, make sure that I feel very comfortable, especially if new things are coming along, which when you span 4 decades, things change. I want to make sure that I'm protecting myself at all times. So, but you know, I think becoming a friend, so to speak, of your client, and sometimes you can't. They're not all, you know, sometimes they're difficult, but I think that's a good idea. And some of this information, the extra information, helps you do that. So,
And just to add, oh, sorry, Jim.
Stop.
Just to quickly add, I know we got a few minutes. Just to add that too is one thing I learned over the years, and is I'm just going to be, you know, don't bullshit your clients. If you're not sure about something, you know, I have a lot of colleagues that are in the trades. You know, there's a lot of things I know, and some things that I'm not sure of. I'm not afraid to say to the client, hey, listen, you know, this doesn't look right. I'm not 100% sure what's going on. Let me get back to you, and run it by an electrician, run it by a plumber. And sometimes it's like not a big deal, or sometimes like, yeah, that's something you should mention to them and have somebody take a look at that, and then I'll get back to them. And that's the only plus. I don't know how you guys do it. These guys, you know, there's guys out there that do their whole report right there, and then they're gone, and then they go home. And to me, I like to go back, you know, think about things sometimes, absorb it, and then write up my report. And if I have anything I'm not 100% sure of, because I don't care how long you do this, how many years you've been doing it, there's always, every once in a while, you come into something like, what is this? I've never seen it before. So it's not, you know, there's no harm in saying, hey, I'm not sure what's going on here. Like a lot of people like to make stuff up or just BS them. You know, I'd rather be honest. And you know what? It hasn't done me wrong. And, you know, sometimes I just the other day, I'll use a quick, you know, is a thermostat for electric heat. And there was no power to it, right? And it was one of these new digital ones, and everyone's different. And I'm like, you know, there's got to be a way to open this up. I bet you there's a switch to turn it on. A lot of guys would just say, oh, you know, it's not working, or and then you open it up, you turn the switch on, or that light switch that turns the outlet outside. You're calling out an outlet. Oh, there's no GFI, there's no power here, and then you go inside, flip the switch. So sometimes you just gotta think about what you're doing and take your time, and don't be afraid to. If you make a mistake, you tell them that, hey, I'm sorry. Who's that?
So just to move forward a little bit, October 7th, we have our webinar on crawl spaces coming up. Then October 10th, we have our Mohegan seminar, which is an all-day event where you can earn 8 credits. And then October 1st, we have Big East Labs is going to present asbestos, what every home inspector should know. And then November 4th, we have a speaker, I forgot the company, but exterior finish insulation system, Stillcorp. They're going to be coming in and they'll be doing a webinar for us. So we have speakers coming in, and then December 2nd, Scott's a certified radon installer. So he's going to be giving a radon and air and water webinar. And then we, in January, have our webinars for electrical panels and then mobile homes. So we have a lot of fun stuff coming up. We've got some special speakers coming in. I know that we're handling some of the webinars, but when we can get speakers to come in, like on asbestos or exterior finished insulation systems, that's going to be great. And again, obviously the speakers for the Mohegan will be there from Schluter Systems and James Hardy. So that's what we have coming up. Take a look out. The first of every month, we post a new newsletter that's on our site and also get emailed to you. But if you're not getting the email, let me know. Just shoot me an email, or you just go right into our site and download it. And also, I uploaded the logo. If you'd like to put a certified logo on your website for this webinar, you can do that also. So the password to get into there is Cornerstone. So we also have a new logo. I'll put it on there too tomorrow. It's on the website, but I'll put it under logos. It's our Cornerstone certified inspector sort of medallion logo that you can put on your website. So if you're an active member, you can download that and stick it on your website and show people that you're getting your education through us. So that's it tonight, unless anybody has anything else. As always, if you
spread the word.
have a good night. If you know somebody who'd like to come talk to us about a subject related to home inspection, just shoot me an email and I'll reach out to them. But thank you very much for attending.
Spread the word about the law seminar, guys.
Yep.